Hi, my name is Joanto Mushiri and I'm a career coach. I recently got asked a question by one of my followers, and let me just read out the question. I need advice. If a recruiter contacts you, you do several virtual interviews, then on the second interview, you discover you are expectant. As per recent communication with the recruiter, the client has finalized and chosen you as the best candidate. All you're now waiting for is an official communication and an offer letter. Would you tell them that you're expectant? So the question here is, at what point do you disclose to your potential employer that you're expectant? And there are two different camps. So there are people who say, wait until you've gotten the offer, and then, at that point you can disclose and say you're expectant. There are people who say that you need to disclose, as you're doing your interviews, and then leave it up to the employer to decide whether or not they want to hire you. Because the truth of the matter is, you cannot be discriminated against because you're pregnant. So if you've been given an offer, the employer cannot rescind the offer just because you're pregnant. But what that would do is it might end up ruining, that trust relationship between you and your employer. And would you want to work for someone who does not want to work with someone who is pregnant, or who does not trust you to begin with? So what I normally feel is, if you do not disclose, then you risk destroying that trust relationship between you and the employer. But on the other hand, if you disclose and tell them that you're expectant, when you're doing the interviews, so this is before the offer, then there's a very high likelihood that they're not going to give you an offer, because of course when you give birth you need to go for maternity leave, and maybe the project that they want you on might suffer at the point when you leave your employer. So this is the advice that I'd give. The first thing is, throughout the interview, make sure you sell your strengths and your capabilities well enough to make sure that even if the employer finds out that you're pregnant, they'll still want to hire you. There are so many stories of people who've gotten hired when they're 7 months pregnant, 8 months pregnant, and they have a good relationship with their employer, and they're even given time to go on maternity leave, and they're able to organize themselves. What would be important is that you have a plan for, when you go on maternity leave, what is going to happen, how will you make sure that the project is not suffering. So if I were, expectant, and, I'm interviewing and I've gotten to the final stages, I'd want to think about how I would do my work. I would put the employer into consideration, because then they are also, like a party to the issue, because then if you go on maternity leave, like, what happens to the work and what happens to the project? So having a clear work plan would be very important. For me, it's important to work in an organization that, that I have like a good relationship with my employer, and I wouldn't want to break the trust. So I would, if I'm like about 6 months or 7 months pregnant, I would definitely disclose. I wouldn't advise anyone to disclose if it's just like very early on, like it's maybe like you're on your first trimester. Like at that point, like you have no obligation to disclose. Then again, some people are pregnant and they don't even know. So like you can find out that you're pregnant like way later on. I would disclose if I'm in my especially third trimester, because then it means you'll be going on maternity leave, and that means there might be a break if you leave. So there needs to be like a plan of action of how work is going to continue. But at the end of the day, when you're going for for interviews, when you're attending interviews and you're doing virtual interviews, I wouldn't disclose that I'm pregnant at this point, because at this point, like, you've not gotten selected. You want to think about this question like towards the tail end of your interviewing process, and even then, before you disclose that you're expecting, you need to have a clear work plan, so that like when you leave, what is going to happen, how will you ensure that like the ball is not dropped. You need to show that you're really passionate about this job and how you're going to navigate. That's all that I had for today. I hope this video has been beneficial. Thank you, and see you next time.